Hey everybody, today is day 12 of the intermittent fasting raw food challenge. If you've made it this far, congratulations. I'm super proud of you. I know a lot of people just couldn't make it 14 days and they've dropped out, but you know what? More power to you. I mean, you've at least started training your body with intermittent fasting, and I'm hoping you'll incorporate some raw food meals into your daily routine from now on. I do have a question that I get all the time. It's, what is my daily eating schedule? And I've answered this multiple times too. What do I eat every single day? And if you've watched my videos in the past, you'll know that for the last 20 years I've experimented with multiple diets. And it's really hard for me to answer that because I'm trying to find out, is there such thing as the perfect diet for everybody? And I've talked about this, and I honestly say no, or at least I haven't figured it out yet. Because everybody's different. I mean, if you live up in Alaska, you might need more fats. If you live in the Caribbean somewhere, you're going to have probably more fruits and vegetables. I can say that studying all these different cultures and what is the perfect diet, it's really what grows locally in your area. So if you're down in the southern states, you're probably going to have a lot of fruits and vegetables. You're in the northern states. I mean, it just depends. But I've also said that everybody's diet should be 80-20 or 90-10 or 95-5. Leaving a little wiggle room in there for you to have some of those foods, because what happens when people go on diets or they try to change their diet is they just get rid of everything. And that's the worst thing you can do. They go on this strict diet program for like 3 or 4 weeks, and then they restrict all the things they love, and then when they get off their diet, then they end up gaining twice as much weight back because they pig out on all these foods. So if I was to describe my perfect diet, and I've only been doing intermittent fasting for 1.5 years, maybe 2 years now, I would say that, and this may change in the future, who knows, but I would say that intermittent fasting for sure would be a staple and should be a staple in everybody's daily routine. And if you want to go by my 90-10 diet rule, 90% of the time you can do intermittent fasting, and 10% of the time you don't have to, maybe, if you want to do that. I'll do intermittent fasting. But if there's a Sunday where I feel like going out for breakfast and having breakfast with the family, then I'll do that. I mean, I'm not putting a bunch of restrictions on myself. It's always you always want what you can't have kind of a deal. But I also, one of my top priorities in life is making sure that I'm healthy and that I'm putting good things in my body. And that my body is clean, and that my body, as a matter of fact, I'm doing my second liver cleanse tonight on this 14-day challenge. I've already done one, and I'm drinking my olive oil tonight for my second liver cleanse. Because I know the secret, and you know the secret to health. The secret to everything is just changing your lifestyle and making sure that you clean up everything in your living environment, and you detoxify and you clean your body on a regular basis. So sticking to what I would consider the perfect diet, which would be a 90-10, or if you want to be, even more intense, maybe 95-5. So I have not eaten any meat products, by the way, in 16 or 17 years. So I am completely off meat. So I am 100% off of meat. I am 90% vegan. Very rarely do I have some raw goat's cheese or raw sheep cheese, but I do have that on occasion. I mean, the last time I had raw goat cheese or sheep cheese was probably 3 or 4 months ago. So, I mean, I don't want to call myself 100% vegan because then technically that wouldn't be correct. But I would say I'm 95% vegan, probably even more like 98% vegan, because I do have a little bit of goat cheese every now and then. I'm not 100% raw food. I mean, I enjoy cooked vegan dishes, but I always try to incorporate raw food into my day every single day. That would mean, so I always take a little handful of some raw nuts and seeds every day. I usually have a small bowl of fruit every single day. And I usually have a salad before one of my meals every day, whether it's a lunch meal or a dinner meal. So I try to incorporate some or as much raw food into my diet as I can every single day. I am 90% gluten-free. Actually, I would probably say more like 95% gluten-free. I try to restrict my corn intake as well, my potato intake. So gluten and heavy carbohydrates like corn and rice and breads, I try to reduce. I would say 90% gluten-free, 90% vegan, 90% soy-free, although probably I barely ever eat any soy anyway. If it is, it's organic or it's fermented. 90% corn-free, 95% sugar-free. I don't, unless I'm getting any type of artificial sweeteners or anything like that are hidden in any foods. I mean, I try to eat organic as much as I possibly can. 90% dairy-free. And probably a close to 100% GMO-free. I mean, there's just some things you just can't avoid. I mean, GMOs are everywhere. I mean, even they're finding genetically modified stuff in vitamin supplements. I mean, so you just do the best you can. And that's my dietary habits. I try to drink a lot of water during the day. I drink kombucha tea. I drink herbal teas. I have one organic coffee a day. Almond milk. I'll have some almond milk, pecan milk. I make my own almond butter. And I have a stone mill at my house, and I get the fresh almonds that haven't been radiated, and make fresh almond butter. So, but and that gives me some freedom. I mean, that gives me freedom, that 10%, even though I'm more likely to be on the 96, 97, 98%. It makes me feel better if I have 10% leeway if I want to go out for like a whatever, treat myself sometime. I mean, with the family somewhere, we go to like an organic restaurant or something like that, and have something to eat. So I hope that answers the question. I can't say that I'm going to say the same thing a year from now, because I've pretty much been saying the same thing for the last 20 years, but I'm also experimenting with myself, and I'm also seeing what foods agree with me, what foods don't agree with me, how I'm doing on intermittent fasting. And sometimes I like to just do some plant-based ketogenic. I mean, whenever I say ketogenic diet, I just did an interview with Dr. Thomas Seyfried, and people were saying, well, the ketogenic, yeah, it contains meat. Yeah, you're right. And when I talk about ketogenic, it's vegetarian ketogenic diets. And all that means is just getting rid of all the carbohydrates to where you can put yourself in ketosis. And that means eating more fats and low glycemic index foods. So there is a distinction between just a standard ketogenic diet and a vegetarian ketogenic diet or a vegan ketogenic diet. The only difference between a vegetarian and a vegan is dairy. And so any of those, if you're on those, you should be incorporating raw foods into your daily routine. And that's all that I really wanted to share with everybody in this 14-day raw food intermittent fasting challenge. Doesn't matter how many days you made it. I mean, yes, congratulations, and for everybody that's still hanging in there. We only have 2 days left. So Sunday's going to be the last day, or 2 days from now. And that's great. And everybody, even people that have dropped out that I've talked to, are still really glad, and they still said that they're going to incorporate intermittent fasting in their daily routine. So even if you can change one thing, you're still making progress. I mean, if you just make a commitment to eat 1 or 2 raw things a day, you're still doing better than percent of the population out there. Just small changes. I mean, that again is one of the situations why diets are not successful. Because people just stop doing everything they're doing, and then they go on this radical diet plan, and they may lose weight, but then they go right back to their old habits. So it's just slow changes. I mean, slow changes are always the most successful changes. Here's a couple questions that I wanted to answer. Is seltzer water okay to drink? Will it break a fast? Now, I'm not sure if that question is referring to water-only fasting. And if it's water-only fasting, I would say that not to do the seltzer water, or limit your sparkling water to a small amount. And if it's intermittent fasting and you're talking about drinking that water throughout the day or through the non-eating period, it depends on. I mean, I've seen some seltzer waters with some additional synthetic minerals added to them. So you would have to actually probably send me the type of seltzer water that you're talking about and let me look at the ingredients and where it's from. Always think root cause. Always think root cause. Where does this come from? Okay, even when you buy stuff. Yeah, it takes a little bit more time. If you buy organic, you're probably not going to have to worry so much about that. But the organic program still allows people and farmers to water everything with tap water. We are making progress, though. We are making progress. And as long as you're cleansing yourself on a regular basis, you're going to be doing really well. Dr. G, I have hypoglycemia, and every darn time I try to do a water fast, I get sick. I hate having hypoglycemia. Everybody has hypoglycemia when they water fast. I mean, that's the whole purpose of water fasting. I mean, you're going to go into hypoglycemia. You're going to be a hypoglycemic. If you watch my 18 days of water-only fasting, and you see I think it was one day in there, and I can't remember which day it was, my blood glucose level went down to 40. Okay? I should have been in a diabetic coma at that level. I mean, people were writing in and saying, you're going to die. Stop right now. You stop fasting. You're going to die. You're going to go into a coma and die. If you're worried about that, then I would highly recommend you go to the True North Health Center, Dr. Alan Goldhammer's center, and do a medically supervised fast. I mean, it's not that expensive. I think it's like $150 a night, and that includes everything. It's almost cheaper than going to a resort. And you're going to have medical doctors, supervise every single moment of it. And then once you start producing your ketones and using ketones for fuel, you'll get an energy spike. And when I was going into hypoglycemia, initially it happens about anywhere between 28 and 36 hours. Everybody's different. You might get dizzy. You might get very, very weak. You might feel like you're going to faint. You might actually faint. So when you start feeling those symptoms, when your glucose is running out completely, you need to lay down and rest. And that's why it's so important to rest, get a lot of rest. I did mine. If I could do it over again, I probably wouldn't work and exercise during the first week of my water-only fast. I would make sure that I rest during the first week of my water-only fast. That's probably the one thing that I learned that I would do different. I was just experimenting with myself. I was thinking, I'm going to try to do this while I'm working, and I'm just going to, be a renegade. And I did it, but I also learned from my experience. And that's what life is all about, learning from your experiences and improving yourself and not making the same mistakes twice. And forgiving yourself and moving on and loving yourself and just knowing that you live each day and be happy each day because you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. The next question is, how can intermittent fasting help eye health? Can it resolve eye issues, retina issues, cataracts, etc., macular degeneration? Unfortunately, I had a long conversation with Dr. Goldhammer about this as well, because I was hoping about couple years ago, I had to actually start using reading glasses, and I don't know if it was just because I was spending way too much time in front of the computer, and I wasn't wearing my blue blocking glasses, or if it was because I had radial keratotomy done on my eyes. When I was a kid, I used to have to wear thick glasses and used to get teased in school. So I was like one of the first individuals to go through. Now they have the laser surgery, but I actually did it where they slit your eye with a scalpel. And I've seen 20/20 ever since then. So I don't know why. I mean, it's common for people to have eye problems now, and it's because your arteries get plaqued up with all this toxic stuff going into your eyes. But everybody I've talked to in the fasting industry, I thought when I was hoping anyway, that when I did my 18-day water-only fast, that my eyesight would improve and I wouldn't need reading glasses anymore. And that didn't happen. There have been cases where people have done multiple short-term water-only fasts, like in blocks of 9 days, and then they wait a few weeks or a month, then they do another 9-day fast, and they wait like a month and do another 9-day fast. And they have reported some instances where their eyesight has improved. I talked to Dr. Goldhammer about that, and he said, yeah, the eyes are pretty much the last thing the body focuses on. There's so much damage internally in our major organs that the body's going to take a lot of time to focus on that first. And it doesn't, once all that's clean, then maybe it'll start focusing on your eyes. So no, I can't say that. It's definitely a possibility, but it's not something that for sure is going to happen. Now, we have seen some pretty good progress with eyes going through the 9-step body cleanse process, going through the intestinal cleanse, healing the gut, then moving on to 3 liver and gallbladder cleanses, then moving on to the harmful organism cleanse, and finishing up with the chemical and heavy metal cleanse. We have had people report that they've had positive impact and positive results in their eyes. So that's today's update. Again, thank you everybody for all of your questions. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the 14-day raw food intermittent fasting challenge. And I hope everybody has a wonderful and healthy day. And just remember, take your life day by day and live healthy.